What an excellent ending! We find that not only does Shakespeare's Two Gentlemen of Verona have a fantastic climax, but in addition it makes use of mythological references to reinforce certain aspects of the play, specifically the plot as well as the motif of the play. And often when these references are made, it's to highlight the tragic nature of the love that the main characters experience.
The Duke compares Valentine to Phaeton, saying, Wilt thou reach stars because they shine on thee? This shows how his ambitious love causes him to crash and burn like Phaeton. He is then banished from Milan, which Valentine sees as a death sentence. The story of Phaeton also relates to the motif of fire as the heat of love. Summer, fire, and heat are symbolic of passion, love, and lust.
Another myth that features prominently in the play is that of Leander and Hero. This play consists of Leander, an Arctic Greek lover, scaling a tower to be with the woman that he loves, Hero, who's a priestess of Venus. However, his plot is foiled when he ends up drowning in the Hellespont. Ironically, the first reference that we have to this myth comes from Valentine when he's actually comparing him to Proteus and making fun of him for being in love with Julia. Later, Valentine himself will fall in love, and he will actually become the new equivocation for Leander. His situation is more specifically reflective of Leander's because he actually tries to scale the tower in which Sylvia is kept to run away with her. However, like Leander, he fails in his mission and metaphorically ends up drowning in the attempt. In his situation, he is foiled by the Duke, who intercepts him and prevents him from actually making it to Sylvia. In the actual myth, Leander drowns during a winter storm. This reinforces the motif of winter being a representative of an absence of love in the play, while we have summer being representative of warmth and heat, which in turn is a metaphoric symbol for love. Coldness, in turn, is representative for the opposite, the absence of love. There's a quote from the book that especially epitomizes this motif in Act 2, Scene 4. Disdain to root the summer-swelling flower and make rough winter everlastingly, which shows the contrast between the summer and winter. Another motif that's reinforced through this myth is the idea of the sea being representative of a woeful aspect of love and how it keeps lovers apart.
The myth of Theseus and Ariadne draws a parallel to the relationship between Proteus and Julia. In the myth of Theseus and Ariadne helps Theseus through the labyrinth to slay the Minotaur. She gives him a ball of string, which he uses to find the Minotaur, slay him, and then find his way back out. Previous to her helping Theseus, he had promised when he left to take her with him. However, when he leaves the labyrinth and leaves, he doesn't take Ariadne with him as promised. This is a parallel to a relationship between Proteus and Julia, because Proteus, before he leaves for Milan, makes this promise to Julia saying, I'm going to marry you, I'm going to go to Milan, but I'm going to come back and marry you. And instead, he leaves and goes to Milan and betrays his promise and his love for Julia by falling in love with Sylvia. Just as the myth of Theseus and Ariadne references the sea with Theseus sailing away, abandoning Ariadne, Proteus abandons Sylvia by sailing away to Milan in a ship across the sea, and this can be seen when Lance is talking to Speed, and he is talking about he says, "Oh, my master's ship, why it is at sea," and he's talking about how oh my gosh, well Proteus, he's left, and when he leaves, he falls in love with Sylvia, just and abandons his commitment to Julia, just like Theseus abandoned his commitment to Ariadne.
We believe that the tragic nature of love throughout the play is represented by the tragic endings of these mythological tales. However, interestingly, although the tales end in death and end tragically, Verona ends happily. We think that this may represent Shakespeare's belief that love can conquer all, even Greek myths.